All right, so get this. We're diving into some sources that basically imagine Britain becoming like the 51st state.
Yeah, 51st state. We're talking Britain 2025. And things haven't exactly gone to plan.
Not to plan at all. And they end up inviting Donald Trump to, well, kind of take over.
Yeah, to come and make Britain great again.
It's such a funny premise.
It is. It really is. And what's really cool is the sources we're looking at, they use this whole crazy idea to make fun of, like, both British and American politics.
Yeah, and culture, too. Like, all those stereotypes we have about both countries, they just blow them up to be massive.
It's like they took everything that makes a classic British comedy, like a carry-on film, and then added a ton of American, like craziness and, like, boldness.
Yeah, and it's like political satire, but also slapstick.
Exactly. It's both. And they don't hold back either. They go into like all the messy bits, the political chaos, the cultural clashes, and it's all done with this like wink, wink, nudge, nudge humor.
It makes you laugh, but also think, wait a minute, could this actually happen?
Yeah, for real. So how do you think Trump reacts when Britain asks him to come over?
I don't know. Is he hesitant? Does he need convincing?
Not at all. According to these sources, he is absolutely thrilled by this invitation to make Britain great again.
Of course he is.
He jumps on Air Force One right away, like faster than you can say bangers and mash.
With a bucket of KFC, I bet.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
A bucket of KFC and like a map of Britain where he circled all the roundabouts in red.
Oh, man. That's so good. What about the British people, though? What do they think about all this?
It's really mixed, actually. Some are like super excited, waving American flags, chanting, USA, USA.
Makes sense.
Others are like totally horrified. They think this is the end of British culture as they know it.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then there are those who are just kind of like, nah, at least we won't have to argue about the NHS anymore.
It's chaos, but like very British chaos.
Mm.
Still keeping a stiff upper lip.
Oh, totally. But things definitely get wilder once Trump actually takes over.
What do the sources call it? The Trump regime?
Yeah, something like that. And they say that the British Parliament just descends into utter pandemonium.
I can imagine. What are they debating now? Like the best American football team.
Actually, they are. They're debating whether iced tea is better than a proper cuppa and like whether they should add a bunch more Big Bens.
Wait, one for each state?
Yeah, exactly.
Like 50 more Big Bens.
That is wild.
Oh, and of course Boris Johnson makes a comeback, somehow even more outrageous than before.
It's naturally. It's like they took all the weirdness of British politics and added a shot of American-style showmanship.
Exactly. So much showmanship. And speaking of changes,
Yeah.
What about everyday life? How does that get Americanized?
I'm picturing like McDonald's on every corner.
Oh, there's definitely that. But it goes
Yeah.
beyond fast food. It's like Yorkshire pudding suddenly comes to the side of corn dogs.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And Cockney rhyming slang is all mixed up with Texan drawls, and everybody's trying to drive on the right side of the road.
So driving, that's a recipe for disaster. Total disaster. The sources actually have this hilarious story about a London cabbie whose sat-nav totally freaks out trying to figure out roundabouts.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So what about all the iconic British landmarks? Do they get a Trump makeover too?
Oh, absolutely. Buckingham Palace turns into this, like, super flashy replica of Trump Tower.
No way.
Yeah, complete with a red carpet leading up to a velvet rope. But you can only get past the velvet rope if you're wearing a Magi hat.
You're kidding.
And get this, the Queen's Guard, they get replaced by Elvis impersonator.
Elvis impersonator.
Elvis impersonators guarding Buckingham Palace. You can't make this stuff up.
It's ridiculous, but in this weird alternate universe, it kind of makes sense.
Right. It's like they took every British stereotype, turned it up to 11, and then sprinkled some American kitsch on top.
It's fascinating, though. Like, by making these crazy scenarios, they're actually raising some interesting questions about cultural identity.
Totally. What happens when a country's traditions get messed with so much? Do they change? Do they resist? Or do they just become something totally new?
Yeah, it makes you think. And it's like they're holding up this funhouse mirror to both British and American culture.
Showing us both how different and how similar we are.
Exactly. All through this lens of humor, which makes it entertaining and thought-provoking at the same time.
It really is. So imagine you suddenly found yourself living in this Americanized Britain.
What will be the hardest thing to adjust to? The food, the language, the politics.
What do you think?
I don't even know. It's so much to take in. Keep thinking about that, though, because we're just getting started. Things are going to get even more unexpected from here. Okay, so we've got Elvis guarding Buckingham Palace Texans trying to drive on the left, and Parliament arguing about iced tea.
It's a lot. It really is. Like,
Yeah.
the sources just go all out with how ridiculous things get.
But what's interesting is they don't just stick to, like, the surface level changes.
Right. They actually go deeper. Like, they start exploring how this whole cultural shift impacts spirituality.
Okay, now that's interesting. So how do they bring spirituality into this already crazy scenario?
Well, they introduce these concepts of, like, robot monks and spiritual Sherpas.
Oh, about monks.
Yeah, basically they're AI trying to, like, guide people towards enlightenment, but using some very unexpected methods.
So like AI gurus running meditation retreats in Silicon Valley.
Not quite. More like these kind of comical figures with robes that keep glitching and they, like, short-circuit mid-mantra.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Right. Like, imagine a robot trying to teach you mindfulness, but it keeps spitting out error messages like inner peace not found.
It is so good. It's like the ultimate clash between technology and spirituality.
Exactly. And then you've got these spiritual Sherpas who are actually humans, but they think enlightenment comes from technology.
So instead of offering you a cup of tea in a meditation, they give you a Bluetooth speaker and a playlist of binaural beats.
Pretty much. It's like the satirical commentary on our obsession with quick fixes, even for something as deep as spirituality.
It's like even enlightenment has to be optimized for efficiency now.
Right. And in the middle of all this spiritual chaos every day, British life gets some pretty funny makeovers too.
Like what?
Well, cricket becomes this weird mix of baseball and rounders.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
Rugby turns into American football, but played with a rugby ball.
What about the pubs? I can't even imagine what happens to those.
Picture this. You walk into your local pub expecting a nice pint of ale and a cozy atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
But instead they're serving Bud Light on tap and margaritas in pint glasses, and the jukebox is blasting country music.
Oh no, the poor Brits.
It's like their whole world has been turned upside down.
I bet they're just looking around like, what is going on?
Yeah, the sources describe this sense of, like, bewildered amusement. They're confused, but also kind of fascinated by how ridiculous everything is.
It's like they've been dropped into this alternate reality where everything's just slightly off.
Exactly. And that's what makes these sources so clever. They use humor to point out the differences between British and American cultures, but without being mean about it.
It's more like, hey, we're different, but we can still laugh at ourselves.
Right. And it makes you wonder what would happen if it were the other way around.
Like if America became Britishized.
Yeah. Would Americans be drinking warm ale and watching cricket on a Sunday afternoon?
Now that's a thought. But seriously, beyond the jokes, what do you think these sources are really saying about cultural exchange?
Yeah, it really makes you realize that, like, mixing cultures isn't always easy.
Right. It's like, I don't know, you try to blend two things together and sometimes it works perfectly.
And sometimes it just explodes.
Totally. But even when it's a mess, you can still learn something from it.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, beyond all the funny stuff, what do you think these sources are really trying to say? About us? About the world?
I think they're saying we should, like, look past all the stereotypes.
And just see each other as people.
Exactly. Like, yeah, we're different.
But we're all going through the same crazy stuff.
It doesn't matter if you're British or American or whatever. We're all just trying to figure things out, you know?
And find our place. And have some laughs along the way.
Sometimes the best way to get to know someone is to laugh with them, right?
Totally. Even when things are a bit messy.
Like when you've got Elvis impersonators guarding Buckingham Palace.
Exactly. Humor can really help you bridge those gaps, you know?
It helps you connect on a human level.
Yeah, even when things are totally absurd.
It's like these sources are saying, don't take things too seriously.
Embrace the chaos. Embrace the confusion.
Because in the end, it just makes life more interesting.
And you never know, you might even learn something new about yourself along the way.
Something you wouldn't have discovered if you just stayed in your own little bubble.
Exactly.
So this whole deep dive, it's been quite a journey.
It really has.
Robot monks, Elvis guards. It's been hilarious.
But it also makes you think, like, what would happen if we all tried to mix things up a bit more, you know?
Yeah.
Culturally speaking.
What if we all stepped outside our comfort zones and really experienced something different?
It's a good question.
And who knows, maybe it'll inspire some of us to try that Yorkshire pudding with a side of corn dogs.
Or a pint of warm ale with a shot of tequila.
No, that's a cultural fusion I'm willing to get behind.
Me too.
Well, that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with another one.